Welcome to our deep dive into No Excuses, The Power of Self-Discipline by Brian Tracy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's a really interesting book, and we're going to kind of like extract some, some real actionable insights from it, stuff that you can use, to boost your career, relationships, finances, even your overall well-being.
Yeah, I've heard great things about this book.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how he dedicates it to Eric Berman right off the bat.
Okay.
And praises him for incredible self-discipline and determination.
Yeah.
Makes you kind of think, what does it truly mean to be disciplined, right? And then he jumps right into the big question.
Yeah.
Why are some people more successful than others?
That is the age-old question, isn't it?
It is.
All right.
And he uses this idea of someday I'll,
Yeah.
a place where people live who are constantly putting off important actions.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they're stuck in this perpetual someday loop. Think about your own goals and aspirations. Have you ever felt stranded on someday I'll?
Oh, absolutely. Many times I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all have. What's one thing that comes to mind for you?
Oh, gosh. Probably starting that business plan I've been thinking about forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've all been there at some point.
Right?
Putting off that workout, that project, that
Yeah.
difficult conversation.
Yeah.
And Tracy points out that the residents of Someday Isle, they all speak the same language. Excuses.
Right.
It's the shared narrative.
Yeah, it becomes like their main thing.
Totally.
Yeah. Instead of action, it's just excuses.
And it keeps them from moving forward.
Yeah.
What's really interesting is how Tracy contrasts this with his own personal journey.
Okay.
He didn't start out with any special advantages,
Hmm.
but he achieved success in multiple fields.
Right.
And he attributes that success to developing self-discipline.
That's inspiring, It really shows that anyone can do it.
It is encouraging, right?
Yeah.
Because it means that it's not some innate talent.
Exactly.
It's something that we can all develop.
A skill.
Yeah. And he shares this anecdote about meeting a super successful businessman at a conference. And the key takeaway from that is the guy was a master of long-term thinking.
Oh, I like that.
Right. Like he aligned his daily actions with his ultimate goals.
Yeah, like he always had the big picture in mind.
Yeah, exactly. So it's about bridging that gap
Right.
between where we are now and where we want to be in the future. And to do that, we need to be mindful of what Tracy calls the expediency factor and the path of least resistance.
Okay.
It's so easy to fall into that trap
Yeah.
of instant gratification.
Totally. Like the short-term reward.
Right. Choosing to watch TV instead of working on that project.
Yeah, or scrolling through social media.
Exactly. Or grabbing fast food instead of cooking a healthy meal. We've all been there. But Tracy argues that consistently taking the easy path can lead to weakness and underachievement.
It's like anything else, right? You have to put in the work
Yeah.
to get the results.
It's like choosing the couch over the gym.
Yeah, you might feel good in the moment,
Right.
but in the long run,
Yeah.
it's not doing you any favors.
You're weakening your muscles.
Exactly.
Same goes for self-discipline.
It's like a muscle that needs to be exercised.
Exactly. He even compares it to a salesman that he knew whose income plateaued when he stopped actively working on self-improvement.
Interesting.
So it's not enough to learn new things.
Right.
We need to continuously apply and refine those skills.
It's a continuous process.
It's like a lifelong training program for success. And speaking of success, Tracy talks a lot about joining the top 20% of high achievers. How does that concept resonate with you?
Well, I think it ties into the Pareto principle,
Yeah,
which states that roughly 80% of results come from 20% of efforts.
right.
So the top 20% are really focused on those high-value activities, always striving for improvement.
Yeah.
Imagine you attend a conference and learn one new technique that completely transforms your career.
Yeah.
That's investing in yourself, aiming for that top 20%.
Okay, I love that. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about character development.
Mhm.
Tracy argues that integrity is the cornerstone of all other virtues. Why do you think he places so much emphasis on integrity?
Well, I think it's because integrity is really about being true to yourself and your values.
Okay.
It builds trust and respect both in personal and professional relationships.
Right.
People with integrity are reliable,
Yeah.
honest, accountable.
Yeah.
These are qualities that attract success in all areas of life.
So it's not just about being good.
Right.
It's about being someone that others can rely on and trust,
Exactly.
which ultimately benefits everyone involved.
Absolutely.
Right. He also talks about how parents play a huge role in shaping a child's character.
Of course.
He compares it to writing on wet clay.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Right. Those early influences have a lasting impact.
It makes you think about the responsibility we have as parents.
It does.
Yeah.
And he stresses leading by example.
Right.
If you want to raise children with strong character,
Yeah.
you need to consistently demonstrate those values yourself.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
You know, they're always watching and learning,
Yeah.
even when you think they're not.
So it's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Couldn't agree more.
He also makes this really fascinating connection between self-esteem
Okay.
and acting in alignment with our values.
I like that.
He uses this analogy of two wolves battling inside us.
Oh, I've heard this one.
Have you?
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, one representing our positive values and the other our negative tendencies.
Yeah.
And which wolf we feed determines which one grows stronger.
So true.
So powerful.
Right.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really highlights the importance of choice.
It does.
You know,
Yeah.
what are we going to focus on?
Are we going to feed the wolf of integrity, kindness, and courage,
Yeah.
or the wolf of negativity, dishonesty, and fear? And what's fascinating is how he links this back to self-esteem.
Right.
When we act in alignment with our values,
Oh, yeah.
we feel good about ourselves.
We build that inner strength.
We strengthen that inner sense of worth.
Yes.
So it's not about ego or arrogance.
No.
It's about living in a way that reflects our deepest values.
Now, this next part really resonated with me. This concept of the mental child versus the mental adult.
Okay.
Tracy argues that blaming others keeps us stuck in a mental child state,
Oh, interesting.
while accepting responsibility empowers us to become mental adults.
It's about taking ownership, isn't it?
It is. It's about taking ownership of our lives.
Yeah.
Think about, those times when you catch yourself blaming external circumstances or other people for your setbacks.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Right.
It's easy to fall into that trap.
Are you in the mental child state? Now, how does it feel when you take responsibility,
Uh-huh.
even if it's uncomfortable?
Yeah,
Do you feel a shift?
definitely. It's power.
It's like taking back control,
Yeah,
right?
right.
He even introduces this principle of never complain, never explain,
Oh, I like that.
especially for leaders.
Okay.
It's about focusing on solutions instead of dwelling on problems.
Right. Lead by example
Yeah.
and inspire others to do the same.
Now, I'm curious, how does the quote, "If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there," resonate with you?
Oh, that's so true. You know? It highlights the importance of having clear goals.
It does. And Tracy shares this mind-blowing statistic.
Okay.
Only 3% of adults have written goals.
Wow. That's pretty low.
It is. But here's the kicker. That 3% earns more than the other 97% combined.
Really? That's amazing.
Yeah. So it shows the power of putting pen to paper
Yeah.
and outlining those goals.
Like having a roadmap.
It's like having a roadmap for success.
So what does this all mean for our listener? Having clear goals is a major predictor of success.
Tracy even outlines his 7-step method to achieving your goals.
Okay.
We don't need to go through all 7 steps now,
Right.
but let's just focus on a couple that might be really relevant.
Sure.
First, clarity. How well defined are your goals?
Okay.
And second, deadlines. Have you set specific time frames for achieving those goals?
Well, those are great starting points.
They are. Now let's talk about something that can be a real roadblock to success.
Fear.
Tracy even says that the fear of public speaking is more common than the fear of death.
Wow. I believe it.
Have you ever felt that kind of fear?
Oh, absolutely. Who hasn't?
That hesitation to step outside your comfort zone?
It's natural to feel fear.
Yeah. And he describes how fear manifests physically.
Yeah.
That racing heart, the shallow breath,
Mhm.
it can literally stop us in our tracks.
Yeah. It's paralyzing.
And he offers this really simple yet powerful strategy for overcoming fear. Aristotle's concept of fake it till you make it.
I love that one.
Right.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's about acting as if you already possess the confidence and courage you desire,
Uh-huh.
even if you don't quite feel it yet.
Right. It's about changing our behavior first,
Yeah,
which then can lead to a shift in our internal state.
right. He even shares the story of Toastmasters International,
Oh, yeah.
which is an organization that helps people conquer their fear of public speaking
Right.
through systematic desensitization.
Yeah. They gradually expose people to those situations.
Right? They start with small steps and provide positive reinforcement along the way.
Exactly. It's a proven method.
It's really encouraging. It shows that even deep-seated fears can be overcome with the right approach.
Absolutely.
And Tracy also encourages us to move toward the fear,
Okay.
whether it's facing rejection in sales,
Uh-huh.
volunteering for a challenging task.
Right?
He wants us to develop that courage to confront what scares us.
It's about stepping outside that comfort zone.
Yeah.
Because when we avoid our fears, we're
Right.
essentially choosing the path of least resistance,
Yeah.
which can keep us stuck.
Exactly.
And I love how he ties this back to the expediency factor that we discussed earlier.
Uh-huh. It all comes full circle.
It does. Now, one tool that he introduces to combat worry is the disaster report.
Okay.
Have you ever used something like this?
I haven't, but I'm intrigued.
It's a really brilliant technique. It involves realistically assessing the potential negative outcomes of a situation.
Okay.
And often when we really think it through,
Our fears turn out to be based on, like, irrational thoughts that haven't been carefully examined.
yeah, we tend to catastrophize,
Yeah.
make things bigger in our minds.
The disaster report forces us to challenge those assumptions
Okay.
and to put things into perspective.
So it's like a reality check.
It is.
Yeah.
So instead of letting fear paralyze us,
Huh?
we can break it down, analyze it,
Right.
and develop a plan to move forward.
I like that.
I think that's a great place to pause for.
Okay.
You know, we've covered a lot of ground, and I'm sure our listener has plenty to ponder.
Absolutely.
We'll be back soon to dive into even more insights from No Excuses.
Looking forward to it.
Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. The last time I left off talking about how facing our fears can actually propel us forward. Now let's shift gears and see how Brian Tracy applies these principles of self-discipline to specific areas of life, starting with business sales and finances.
Tracy really doesn't hold back, does he? He jumps right in, emphasizing how crucial self-discipline is for reaching the top of your field. He even quotes a statistic. 85% of senior executives agree that being able to set priorities and get things done are the most important qualities for promotion. What do you make of that?
It makes perfect sense,
Yeah.
you know? Think about it. To succeed in a fast-paced business environment, you need to be organized, focused, and able to execute tasks effectively. And Tracy links this back to the Pareto principle again. Remember, 80% of the value we create comes from just 20% of our activities. So how can we apply this principle in our work lives?
It's about being laser-focused on those high-value tasks and ruthlessly eliminating distractions, right? Tracy even points out how much time the average employee wastes on things like idle chatter and low-value tasks. It's a wake-up call for sure.
Absolutely. And to help us combat this, he introduces this concept called the Law of Three. It states that there are 3 core activities that contribute 90% of our value to our company. The challenge, of course, is identifying those tasks and making them our top priority each day. Looking back at your week, can you pinpoint 3 core activities that drove the most value for you?
That's a great exercise. It forces us to be strategic with our time and energy. And speaking of time, Tracy also offers some helpful tips for dealing with those notorious time wasters. The people who constantly interrupt our workflow.
Oh, I know those people.
We all do.
Yeah. What does he say?
He suggests setting clear boundaries,
Okay.
politely but firmly explaining that we have deadlines to meet and need to focus. It's not about being rude, but about protecting our time and prioritizing our most important tasks. Remember, our time is our most valuable asset.
So true. It's a finite resource.
It is. And it's interesting how Tracy shares a story from his own early career about how he climbed the ladder quickly. He started at the bottom, but he figured out a simple yet powerful formula for success. Can you guess what it was?
Let me think. Was it networking? Taking initiative.
Those are important. But Tracy focused on delivering high-quality work quickly and then asking for more responsibility.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
By consistently exceeding expectations, he earned a reputation as a top performer. It reminds me of that saying, go the extra mile, it's never crowded.
Love that. And it highlights the importance of being proactive and demonstrating our value. Tracy even shares how his boss told him he was earning more than anyone else who had ever worked for him, all because of his focus on results and profitability.
That's impressive. He encourages us to adopt the same mindset. Go above and beyond, take initiative, and prove your worth. He even gives us a 3-part formula for success. Come in early, work harder, and stay later. What are your thoughts on that?
It's definitely a commitment, but Tracy argues that those extra hours are an investment in our future success. Of course, it's important to maintain a healthy work-life balance, but sometimes going the extra mile can pay off in the long run.
And he's also a big advocate for dressing the part, presenting yourself professionally.
Right. Making a good impression.
He says we should aim to look like the top performers in our field because it makes a positive impression on bosses and colleagues. What do you think does how we dress really impact our success?
I think it definitely plays a role. It's about projecting an image of competence and professionalism. Remember, first impressions matter.
They do. Now let's shift gears and talk about money. a topic that's often shrouded in stress and anxiety. Tracy doesn't sugarcoat things. He shares some pretty sobering statistics about financial security later in life. What stood out to you?
The fact that only a small percentage of people achieve true financial independence is alarming, and he attributes this to a common problem. Most of us have a spend-first mentality. We prioritize immediate gratification over long-term financial goals.
It's that instant gratification loop again, isn't it? We buy things we don't need, eat out more than we should, and then wonder where all our money went.
But here's the fascinating part. Tracy describes this as a conditioned response from a young age. We're taught to associate money with spending and pleasure. It becomes an ingrained habit.
So how do we break that cycle?
Tracy suggests a powerful mental shift. We need to start associating happiness with saving.
Okay.
It's about reframing our relationship with money. He recommends opening a separate financial freedom account and treating it as untouchable, except for investment purposes.
I love that idea. It creates a mental barrier between spending and saving. He also recommends gradually increasing our savings rate, starting with even just 1% of our income. Small, consistent steps can lead to big results over time.
And what's interesting is how he suggests living on slightly less each month. As we increase our savings, it's about making small, incremental adjustments that become habits. Remember, self-discipline is about making conscious choices, even when it comes to our finances.
Like building a muscle, a financial discipline muscle.
Exactly. And Tracy challenges the common assumption that simply earning more money will lead to financial independence. He brings up Parkinson's law, which states that expenses tend to rise to meet income.
Oh, interesting.
So even if we get a raise, we often find ways to spend that extra money instead of saving it. It's like we're on a treadmill, always running, but never really getting ahead.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So how do we break free from that cycle?
Tracy introduces the wedge principle. As our income increases, he suggests aiming to save at least 50% of that increase. This creates a gap or wedge between our earnings and our spending. It's a strategic way to build wealth over time.
It's about being intentional with our money and making sure our savings keep pace with our income growth. Now let's talk about time management. Tracy emphasizes the importance of strategic planning, not just for businesses, but for individuals as well.
Right. He introduces the concept of personal strategic planning, where the goal is to maximize our return on energy or return on life. It's about investing our time and energy in activities that yield the greatest results and satisfaction. Think about your own life. Are you investing your time and energy wisely?
It makes so much sense to apply those business principles to our personal lives, right? Tracy wants us to be as strategic with our human capital as companies are with their financial capital.
Absolutely. And he provides a framework for personal strategic planning, prompting us to ask key questions like, what are my values? What are my key result areas? What are my highest value activities? It's about getting clear on our priorities and focusing on what truly matters. What would you say are your top 3 values?
That's a great question to ponder. It forces us to really examine what's most important to us. Now, Tracy also reminds us that life is full of problems, and our ability to handle them effectively is crucial for success. How does he suggest we approach problem solving?
He offers a step-by-step process, emphasizing the importance of asking the right questions and considering multiple solutions. It's not about jumping to conclusions, but about taking a systematic and analytical approach.
He also challenges us to look for opportunities within problems.
Yeah.
That's a powerful reframing.
Yeah, turning lemons into lemonade.
Right. Sometimes setbacks can lead us in a better direction.
Yeah.
If we're open to seeing the possibility.
It's about staying flexible and adapting to changing circumstances. He also encourages us to cultivate a solution-oriented mindset. Instead of dwelling on the problem, focus on finding a way forward. What's one problem you've recently solved that you're proud of?
That's a great question to reflect on. It reminds us that we all have the power to overcome challenges. Now let's dive into a topic that's close to everyone's heart. Happiness. Tracy breaks it down into 5 key ingredients: health and energy, relationships, meaningful work, financial independence, and self-actualization. He argues that a shortfall in any of these areas can lead to unhappiness and stress. Which of these ingredients do you prioritize in your own life?
They're all interconnected, aren't they? It's like a recipe for a fulfilling life, and each ingredient plays a vital role. He starts by emphasizing the importance of health and energy, reminding us that we often take our well-being for granted until we experience a health issue.
It's so easy to get caught up in the busyness of life and neglect our health, isn't it? But as they say, health is wealth. Without it, everything else suffers.
Exactly. He then dives into the importance of strong, supportive relationships, reminding us to nurture those connections and never take them for granted. Who are the people who bring you the most joy and fulfillment?
That's a beautiful question to reflect on. It reminds us to cherish those special people in our lives.
Yeah.
Tracy also talks about the importance of meaningful work, work that we enjoy, that we do well,
Yeah.
and that makes us feel like we're making a contribution. Do you feel a sense of purpose in your work?
Absolutely. And that sense of purpose is a powerful motivator. It gives us a reason to get up in the morning and strive for excellence.
And of course, he circles back to financial independence, reminding us that it's not just about having money, but about the freedom and security that come with it. It's about having choices and options in life.
And finally, he talks about self-actualization, that drive to fulfill our potential and become the best versions of ourselves. It's a lifelong journey of growth and discovery. What are you doing to nurture your own self-actualization?
That's a great question for all of us to consider. It's about identifying our unique talents and passions and finding ways to express them fully in the world. Now let's focus on health and energy in more detail. Tracy offers some excellent advice on how to cultivate these essential ingredients for happiness. He introduces the 5 Ps of excellent health. Let's start with the first one, proper weight. This is where self-discipline really comes into play.
He's not afraid to tackle this sensitive topic head-on. He points out that over 60% of Americans are overweight. And he emphasizes that getting our weight under control requires consistent effort and discipline. It's about making conscious choices about what we eat and how we move our bodies.
And he debunks the myth of crash dieting, pointing out that starving ourselves to lose weight often backfires. Instead, he emphasizes the importance of understanding our metabolism and finding a sustainable way of eating that nourishes our bodies.
He encourages us to create a vivid mental image of ourselves at our ideal weight, to really visualize the outcome we desire. He also recommends setting realistic goals, making gradual changes to our diet and exercise habits, and focusing on long-term sustainability. It's about creating a lifestyle that supports our health goals.
He also stresses the importance of patience and persistence. He reminds us that it took time to gain the weight, and it will take time to lose it. It's a journey, not a race.
And he encourages us to find healthy ways to reward ourselves that don't involve food. It's about breaking those old associations and creating new positive habits.
Now he gets into a topic that might surprise you. The 3 white poisons, sugar, salt, and flour. He argues that eliminating these from our diet can have a significant impact on our weight and overall health.
It's fascinating how he shares a letter from a man who lost over 20 pounds simply by cutting out these 3 white poisons. It's a testament to the power of making a few key changes to our diet.
And he also stresses the importance of regular exercise, reminding us that our bodies were designed to move. He recommends aiming for 200–300 minutes of exercise per week, combining aerobics, strength training, and flexibility exercises. What does your exercise routine look like?
It's a mix of everything. Cardio, weights yoga. I find that variety keeps things interesting and helps me stay motivated. Tracy also shares an inspiring story about a 68-year-old woman who started jogging for the first time in her life and ended up running marathons. It's never too late to start taking care of our physical health.
That's so inspiring. And he reminds us that even small changes can make a difference, like taking the stairs instead of the elevator, or parking further away from our destination. It's about incorporating movement into our daily lives.
Now let's move on to relationships. Another key ingredient for happiness, Tracy emphasizes the importance of long-term loving relationships, arguing that they're essential for a happy and fulfilling life. How do you define a successful relationship?
For me, it's about finding someone who shares your values, supports your dreams, and challenges you to grow. It's about mutual respect, trust, and a deep sense of connection.
Beautifully said. And Tracy talks about the importance of compatibility, trust, and respect in any relationship. While opposites may attract in terms of temperament, it's important to be aligned in terms of values, goals, and lifestyle.
He also acknowledges that no 2 people are perfectly alike, and disagreements are inevitable in any relationship. It's how we handle those disagreements that matters.
He emphasizes the importance of open and honest communication, active listening, and a willingness to compromise. It's about finding win-win solutions and working together as a team.
Now, Tracy offers some fascinating insights into male-female communication styles.
Okay.
He explains how men and women often approach communication differently, which can lead to misunderstandings. Have you noticed these differences in your own relationships?
Absolutely. He points out that men tend to be more direct and focused in their communication, while women are more nuanced and sensitive to emotional undercurrents.
He emphasizes the importance of active listening, suggesting that we ask clarifying questions, summarize what we've heard, and genuinely try to understand the other person's perspective. It's not about waiting for our turn to speak, but about truly engaging with what the other person is saying.
And he encourages us to be honest and open in our communication, expressing our thoughts and feelings clearly and respectfully. It's about creating a safe space for open dialogue.
He even provides us with 4 powerful questions to ask our partners to foster better communication. Is there anything I'm doing that you'd like me to do more of, less of, start doing, stop doing? He says these questions can help us to continually improve our relationships.
I love that. It's about inviting feedback and being open to growth.
He also encourages us to view our partners as our best friends, people we enjoy spending time with and confiding in.
Now let's transition to the topic of parenting, which Tracy considers one of the most important and consequential responsibilities we can undertake.
He stresses the importance of making a conscious decision to prioritize parenting and be fully present for our children. It's about creating quality time, not just quantity time.
He shares an anecdote about a friend who was an avid golfer, but realized he needed to cut back on his hobby to spend more time with his young family. It's a reminder that our priorities shift when we become parents, and we need to be willing to make those adjustments.
It's about recognizing that our children are only young once, and those early years are precious.
He also talks about the importance of long-term thinking in parenting. He says every interaction we have with our children shapes their character and influences their future. It's a powerful responsibility.
He reminds us that children are incredibly observant and learn by example. They absorb the values we demonstrate, both positive and negative. So it's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
He emphasizes the importance of being role models for our children, practicing self-discipline and self-control, especially when we're feeling stressed or angry. It's about showing them how to handle difficult emotions in a healthy way.
He shares a great story about how he and his wife made a pact with their children to always tell the truth. They promised the kids would never get into trouble for telling the truth, and they consistently reinforced this message.
It's fascinating how this approach fostered a sense of trust and openness within their family. It also helped the children develop strong character and a sense of integrity.
He also reminds us that every child is unique and has their own temperament and talents. He encourages us to create a supportive environment where our children feel safe to explore their interests and follow their passions. It's about nurturing their individuality.
Now let's delve into the topic of self-esteem, which Tracy argues is essential for happiness and success in all areas of life. He says our self-image is made up of 3 parts: how we see ourselves, how we think others see us, and how others actually see us.
He emphasizes the importance of aligning these 3 parts of our self-image, reminding us that we're happiest when there's consistency between how we view ourselves and how others perceive us. What do you think is the biggest obstacle to developing healthy self-esteem?
I think it's often our own negative self-talk. We tend to be our own harshest critics.
That's so true. We need to be kinder to ourselves and focus on our strengths and accomplishments.
And Tracy introduces this concept of the law of indirect effort, which states that by focusing on making others feel important, we actually increase our own self-esteem.
It's like a boomerang effect. When we lift others up, we lift ourselves up too. He even provides 7 specific ways to make others feel important: accepting people the way they are, being agreeable, expressing genuine interest, being a good listener, praising and complimenting, avoiding criticism, being courteous, concerned, and considerate.
It's about practicing empathy and putting others first.
He also emphasizes the importance of avoiding blame, arguing that it's a major source of negativity and unhappiness. Blame is rooted in the need to feel important and justified, but it ultimately keeps us stuck in a cycle of negativity.
He encourages us to let go of blame and focus on solutions instead.
And he also talks about the importance of forgiveness, not for the other person's sake, but for our own. Holding on to grudges only hurts us in the long run.
He introduces the concept of the forgetting curve, or forgiveness curve, which measures how quickly we let go of negative experiences. He says truly healthy people have a downward sloping forgiveness curve, meaning they forgive and forget quickly, so they can move on with their lives.
He encourages us to practice detachment from negative experiences and to find reasons to forgive others, reminding us that forgiveness is a gift we give to ourselves.
Now let's shift gears and explore some practical tips for cultivating inner peace. What are some things you do to find peace amidst the chaos of daily life?
For me, spending time in nature is incredibly grounding. I also find that meditation and mindfulness practices help me to quiet my mind and connect with my inner stillness. What about you?
Similar to you, I find peace in nature. I also enjoy reading something spiritual or uplifting each morning to set a positive tone for the day.
Tracy echoes that sentiment. He encourages us to read something inspiring each day, to feed our minds with positivity. He also emphasizes the importance of not taking things personally, reminding us that most of what happens in life is not about us.
It's about letting go of that ego-driven need to control everything and everyone around us. He also suggests practicing detachment from material possessions, reminding us that true happiness comes from within.
It's about shifting our focus from external validation to inner contentment.
He encourages us to live in the present moment and to appreciate the good things in our lives. Gratitude is a powerful antidote to negativity and stress.
It's about savoring the simple joys of life. A beautiful sunset, a heartwarming conversation, a delicious meal.
And he reminds us that self-discipline is a journey, not a destination. It's about making small, consistent choices that move us closer to our goals and create a more fulfilling life.
I think that's a great place to pause for now. We've covered a lot of ground, and I'm sure our listener has plenty to reflect on. We'll be back soon to wrap up our deep dive into no excuses and explore how to apply these principles to unlock our full potential. Welcome back to our deep dive into Brian Tracy's No Excuses. We've covered a lot of ground already, from overcoming procrastination to building strong relationships. Now, I'm really excited to explore this final piece of the puzzle. Personal development Tracy really emphasizes how self-discipline can unlock our potential in this area.
Yeah, he's a huge advocate for continuous learning. Becoming a master in your chosen field.
Right.
It's about investing in yourself, expanding your knowledge and skills,
And
and always striving for improvement.
he even recommends investing a specific percentage of our income back into our personal growth, 3% to be exact.
Okay.
It's like planting seeds for future success.
Absolutely. He compares it to building a muscle.
Yeah. Yeah.
The more we learn and practice, the stronger our skills become.
Mhm.
And just like with physical fitness, if we stop exercising those mental muscles, they weaken.
He shares this great example of a guy whose income tripled after attending one of Tracy's seminars and applying the principles diligently. But then his income plateaued. And guess what? He had stopped investing in his personal development.
Oh, wow.
It's like he hit the pause button on his growth.
It's a classic case of what happens when we become complacent.
Right.
We might see some initial success, but without continuous learning and growth, we eventually stagnate. Tracy emphasizes the importance of always pushing ourselves to learn and evolve.
So it's not a one-time thing.
Right.
It's a lifelong commitment to becoming the best version of ourselves.
Yeah.
He also encourages us to study the top performers in our field and learn from their habits. It's like finding mentors who are already achieving the results we desire.
Exactly. What books are they reading? What courses have they taken? What strategies do they use?
Right.
By observing and modeling ourselves after those who are already successful, we can accelerate our own growth.
He shares a story about a salesman named Bob who sought out the top performers in his company and simply asked for their advice. And then he diligently implemented their recommendations. Within a few years, he became one of the top salespeople in the country.
That's amazing.
It's a testament to the power of humility, mentorship, and a willingness to learn from those who are ahead of us. Now let's talk about a topic that often holds people back from achieving their full potential: fear. Tracy dedicates an entire chapter to overcoming fear and developing courage.
It's a big one.
It is. He describes fear as a physical response, starting in the solar plexus
Okay.
and manifesting as a racing heart, shallow breathing,
Oh.
and even an upset stomach.
Yeah.
It can be completely debilitating.
It can be paralyzing.
He offers several strategies for overcoming fear, starting with a familiar one, Aristotle's fake it till you make it.
Right.
It's about acting as if you already possess the confidence and courage you desire, even if you don't feel it yet. What are your thoughts on this approach?
I think it's a powerful technique. By changing our behavior first, we can actually trigger a shift in our internal state. It's like convincing our minds by taking action.
Yeah.
He also shares the story of Toastmasters International,
Right.
an organization that helps people overcome their fear of public speaking through systematic desensitization.
Right. They gradually expose people to speaking situations, starting with small steps and providing positive reinforcement along the way. It shows that even deep-seated fears can be overcome with the right approach.
Exactly. And Tracy also encourages us to move toward the fear, to confront those situations that make us uncomfortable. Whether it's facing rejection in sales, volunteering for a challenging task, or simply speaking up in a meeting,
Yeah.
he wants us to develop the courage to step outside our comfort zones.
Because when we avoid our fears, we're essentially choosing the path of least resistance, which ultimately holds us back from growth and progress.
Exactly.
He also provides us with a practical tool for dismantling our worries, the disaster report. It involves taking a step back and realistically assessing the potential negative outcomes of a situation.
Right.
Often our fears are blown out of proportion in our minds. The disaster report forces us to think critically and challenge those assumptions. Have you ever used this technique to overcome a fear or worry?
It's incredibly helpful. It allows us to see things more objectively and develop a plan to mitigate potential risks. It's about taking control instead of letting fear control us.
He also reminds us that the best antidote to fear and worry is action. When we're busy working towards our goals, we have less time to dwell on our anxieties.
It's about channeling our energy into productive activities that move us forward. Now, as a rapid or deep dive into no excuses, what would you say is the most important takeaway for our listener?
I think Brian Tracy's message is clear. Self-discipline is the master key that unlocks our potential in all areas of life. It's about making conscious choices, developing positive habits, and consistently taking action towards our goals without excuses.
It's about recognizing that we have the power to create the life we desire. It's not about luck or circumstance, but about taking responsibility and making choices that align with our values and aspirations.
So to our listener, we encourage you to reflect on the insights we've shared today and consider how you can apply the principles of self-discipline to your own life. Remember, it's a journey, not a destination. Start small, be consistent, and never give up on yourself. For more such content, go to our channel, Pages and Perspectives. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and press the bell icon to get the latest updates. Thank you for joining us.